waited. And when Karen's for sale sign finally went up, subtle, beige, overpriced, the only sound louder than the wind rustling through the trees was the collective sigh of neighbors who had endured too much, laughed enough, and finally taken their street back one splash at a time. It took 3 weeks after the court dismissal for Karen's moving truck to finally appear, and it arrived like a defeated general retreating from a war she had started, lost, and then blamed everyone else for. The truck was large but quiet, its dull rumble rolling over the neighborhood like a sigh of relief. Karen didn't wave. She didn't look around. She wore a floppy sun hat pulled low over her face and barked orders to the movers like a director whose actors kept missing their cues. No one offered to help. No one asked where she was going. We all knew. Somewhere with stricter bylaws, maybe, or perhaps just far enough away to reinvent herself as someone new in a place where nobody had seen the flamingo footage or read her laminated citations about mailbox font size. The movers worked fast, efficiently, carrying box after box of labeled folders, rigid decorations, and one very faded pool float. She had wrapped it in plastic like a keepsake from a war museum, still clinging to whatever twisted meaning it held. I watched from my porch with a cold drink in hand and a kind of peaceful curiosity, not satisfaction or spite, just that strange awareness you get when a tornado finally lifts from the ground and disappears into the sky, leaving only sunlight and a few overturned lawn chairs. That afternoon, after the truck pulled away, Lisa wandered over holding a batch of brownies and the HOA transition binder, the new one we'd been building together with actual community input. It had sections like Respect Your Neighbor and Don't Be a Karen, written half-jokingly but with full intent. Jeff joined us too, bringing folding chairs and a Bluetooth speaker, and before long, we had a small gathering on my driveway. It wasn't a victory party, not officially, but there were toasts made with lemonade, stories retold with laughter, and a shared silence that said, without words, we had survived something absurd and come out lighter. Margaret walked over with her famously heavy banana bread, and even the Thompsons from the far end of the block, who rarely left their porch, made an appearance just to sit and breathe in the new atmosphere. The jokes came naturally now. Lisa mimicked Karen's infamous line about emotionally aggressive chimes. Jeff reenacted the pool scream moment with a perfectly timed splash into a kiddie pool someone brought as a gag, and someone passed around a printed bingo card titled, Karen HOA Offenses, with squares like faked legal threat, snooped behind trash cans, and threatened to fine a sunflower. Everyone laughed, even the people who used to be too nervous to speak. But the change went deeper than jokes. The neighborhood began to heal in the small things. People painted their fences whatever shade they wanted without fear of a fine. Porch lights stayed on past 9 without warning letters. Sidewalk chalk art appeared again, drawn by kids who no longer had to erase their fun before Karen's morning walk. The HOA meetings became shorter, friendlier, and filled with actual decision-making, not lectures. We planted a community garden at the center lot Karen once declared too informal for shared activity, and when the first tomatoes ripened, Jeff left one on every doorstep like an edible symbol of freedom. We even renamed the annual summer barbecue to the Float Fiesta, in honor of the legendary flamingo that had unwillingly carried our former HOA tyrant into viral infamy. It wasn't just celebration. It was reclamation. As for me, I spent more time in my pool than I ever had, not because it was hot or because I suddenly loved swimming more than usual, but because it was mine. Fully. Quietly. Without fear of a surprise inspection or a shadow in the hedges. I installed a new gate, painted it sky blue, and added a tiny bell that jingled when it closed, not as a security measure but as a soft reminder that privacy could sound pleasant too. One evening, just as the sun dipped low enough to tint the sky in amber and violet, I floated on my back with my eyes half closed, listening to the wind rustle through the trees and the faint sound of someone's grill sizzling down the street. That's when I realized how different it all felt. Not just quieter, but steadier, like the whole neighborhood had settled into its natural rhythm again, one that didn't revolve around citations and paranoia. Evan called that week to check in. He said the last legal loose end had been tied, that Karen's appeal had been rejected, and that she'd left a voicemail for his assistant accusing the court of having chlorine bias. He didn't even bother saving it. We laughed, reminisced a little, and then he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Sometimes the best win isn't making someone lose. It's making them irrelevant." I didn't respond right away, but I understood. Karen's real punishment hadn't been the vote, the court, or even the fall into the pool. It was being removed from the center of the story. She thrived on attention, on control, on the illusion of power. Once that was gone, she shrank to her real size. Just another angry person with too many rules and not enough friends. I still keep the flamingo float. It sits in the corner of my shed, slightly deflated, sun-stained, and utterly useless. But every now and then, I take it out, inflate it just enough, and let it float in the pool during get-togethers. It never fails to get a laugh. It reminds us all of how far we came, how silly tyranny can look when it's soaked and screeching, and how good it feels to be free of it. The neighborhood now belongs to everyone again, not just the loudest voice with the biggest stack of papers. The last time I saw Karen was a blurry reflection in the passenger side mirror of her car as she turned out of the neighborhood one final time. She didn't wave. She didn't glance back. Maybe she was starting over, maybe she was plotting her next HOA conquest, or maybe she was just finally tired. Whatever her future held, it didn't involve us. And that, more than anything, was the real victory. Because the gate that once locked her in had done more than trap her for a few hours. It had flipped the story, turned the spotlight, and opened a door for everyone else. And now, every time I hear the soft chime of the pool gate, or see neighbors gathered without tension, or watch a kid ride a bike past a pink flamingo painted on the sidewalk, I think about the strangest chapter our neighborhood ever wrote. It was absurd. It was chaotic. It was, somehow, exactly what we needed. And most importantly, it ended the right way. Not with a bang. Not with a brawl. But with laughter, sunlight, and a perfectly timed splash.